Mary Barrett. Oh,
Mhm.
hey. So anyway, let's see. Virginia, would you, if you can post that email, JCMA, and then Virginia, you have enough of a visibility there to read?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay.
I'll need to, let's see here, get this zoomed in a little bit. All right. Dear folks of Baba, one of the emotions these days that many people who come to the center experience in their lives, especially young adults, is anxiety. Of course, one of the reasons is the unstable condition of the world today. Widespread dishonesty and greed, distrust of our institutions, an epidemic of narcissism, and the increasing polarity between people in our society. In some of the Baba lovers, the anxiety is felt directly, but in many, the anxiety is below the surface, a nameless shadow that is difficult to access and experience directly and give to Baba. Where does anxiety come from? In my own experience, it is fear that is at the very root of anxiety. But rarely do we encounter fear in its raw form. And for this reason, it is difficult to give its enervating effect, which secretly saps our vitality, to Baba. When I am faced with raw fear, which rarely happens, I seize the opportunity to give that fear, the very source of anxiety and worry, to Baba. It takes tremendous inner work to give these to Baba, layer by layer, until their power to cast a shadow over our present moment is diminished. From what I gathered from Darwin, it is best to go directly to the emotions that feed the thoughts in order to lessen the ticker tape of mind chatter. In this case, a concentrated focus on anxiety at the heart level. Thank Baba, it interfaces with the body so we can follow it. And giving it energetically to Baba will result in creating what Darwin called inner space. And that is essential in developing detachment from anxiety. Mind you, the state of the world is not helping. Of course, the dissolving effect of remembering Baba and taking his name in the heart always does so much to counteract anxiety. And as the Mandali have said, this is actually a form of loving service to Baba. Baba has written, there are very few things in the mind that eat up as much energy as worry. Worry has never done anyone any good, and it is very much worse than the mere dissipation of energy, for it substantially curtails the joy and fullness of life. Worry and anxiety, twin bedfellows, are often as close as we get to fear. I have found, unfortunately, that sometimes giving my anxiety and worry to Baba is like clipping off the tops of weeds without getting to the root itself. The tops keep growing back. The worrisome conditions of our present fragile and unstable world situation fortunately drive us to take shelter in Baba within, which is a good thing. The outer world is not likely to change substantially with our small individual efforts, but Baba says he can work through us even without our knowing. I have no doubt that our efforts to remember Baba and live a spiritual life helps him to help the world. I'm reminded of the cable that Baba sent to Delia de Leon during World War II as Germany was bombarding London. Delia was a classic worrywart, with every reason to worry in this devastation. But in his cable, he wrote in part, remain calm. If you remain calm, I can work through you. I try to remain as relaxed as possible at the innermost level, in spite of the distressing news that is continually hitting the airwaves. How much are worry and anxiety a part of your life? What forms do they take in your life at a personal level, as well as when you think about the state of the world? What methods have worked for you in neutralizing or diminishing anxiety's influence? What part does remembrance of Baba play in counteracting this? How successful are you at seeing the bigger picture at play and becoming more aware of the grand scheme of things? Baba has said, I tell you, don't worry, be happy. Why? Because I know the ending, and the ending is beautiful. In his love, Jeff.
So, anybody up for sharing some of that, what they go through, or what has worked for them and what they struggle with.
I have a poem, actually, Jeff. It's interesting that you called me to
Yeah,
read because there's a
good.
poem that Baba had been working with me on writing. And I don't know if this is in its final form yet, but I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
A shadow is proof of the existence of light. For even though it appears to be the absence of light, it could not occur without it. Knowing this, we can trace the transitory stain of darkness to the light source, which we know without thinking always must be there. In the same way, anxiety is the proof of the existence of love. For anxiety tells a story of lack, want, hurt, and at its root, a howling separation from the great nurturing oneness of all being. Tracing back to that point, we see that anxiety stems from the first moment we imagined ourselves to be separate from love, which is our true home. So we can use anxiety as a reminder because it will always tell us when we imagine ourselves to be anything but God.
Beautiful. We'll save
Thank you,
this.
Baba.
Lovely. Save that for later too. We need to hear that again. Yeah. Yeah, if you look at the moon, you can tell where the sun is, by the you can it's pointing to that direction, even though it's even just a sliver in the sky. Okay.
Yeah. I have a couple, I have one part of my personality that's going to say one thing and the other part that's going to say something. So Baba, you choose who goes first. I um I have been taught this year more than ever that Baba is in charge of my life. Terry and I are going to be retiring next week. This is our last weekend being employed individuals. And it was not my choice originally, yet it was the best choice for me. It became something that I didn't realize how good it was for me and how it worked out as a loving send off with me and my company in a way that in their 22 years they've never had a send off like that. Sorry. Sorry. Great. That'll. What's happened to me has really taken my breath away, literally. This is no accident, I guess, because I have never felt the kind of love, appreciation, gratitude, and appropriate transition time any other time in my life. So it makes me, when I come up with something to worry or create anxiety, I remind myself of what I'm living through right now and how if I just trust Baba, it'll be okay. So that's the one personality of me. The other part, and Mark is going to go, I knew this was coming. I read the morning headlines that are just so disturbing about this. I'm not even talking about politics. I'm talking about climate change and how people are. Somebody told me today that there's a whole section of the southern French winery area that can no longer grow grapes, and they're moving to England. That's how, if I'm to believe that, that's how upside down climate change has been. But I keep thinking of that Baba says, like you just said, he knows what the ending will be. And I was thinking about, my God, what if we all burn ourselves up here with all this? And who's to say if that wasn't what Baba was coming up with, in the Assisi caves or wherever he was doing his work. And so basically turning it over that however it turns out, it might not be in my agenda or how I see life, but it's how Baba sees it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think but just about everybody shares that dichotomy. You know, you feel so grateful what Bob is doing for you, and then you're in a world that's kind of unraveling, and how to kind of find how to harmonize those two seemingly disparate uh, trends in this world, you know. Yeah, beautifully said. Um, we'll find out that's why I like that quote in the email. Remain calm. And Bob was sending that cable to Dila Dion during the middle of World War II. Remain calm. If you remain calm, I can work through you. That's a great assurance that not to get so worked up that the love in us gets has to go through the chaos of our mind, you know, to out to the world. So yeah. Oh,
Gail,
Gail, you're JC, you have to turn your volume up. We barely can hear you. Yeah.
I think Gail is trying to unmute from her.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me. Okay. Well, this sort of hit me right where I am. I do have some anxiety. I have my older son, I have two sons, two kids, and the other one is really going through a rough patch. Um, and his name is Wilson, and he is 33, and he really doesn't want to live. I mean, doesn't want to be here. Um, and I don't know what that's going to look like. And so he's actually been living with me for the last 3 weeks or so, but he's the next couple days he's going to go to a new place. So, I've been around him quite a bit, and it's worked out fine. Um, about the same as when he didn't live with me, except for I live in a small place. Um, but to the topic, so that's where my anxiety goes in general. I mean, other things, I myself feel quite lucky. That's how I would describe it. I feel like that I've got Baba, and Baba continuously surprises me with things that are cool. And I wish some of my luck could go over to Wilson, but I don't have any control over that either. I mean, there are lots of things we don't have control over. There are things that you can share, and I do share the things I can. But what I do relative to anxiety is sing. And that started in 2016 when I had taken care of my dad for 3 years. He was in assisted living, but he was high maintenance and a challenging person to work with on a good day, and just a grumpy guy. And so I was very, very busy, even though he had a companion from 8 in the morning till 11 at night or something like that. I mean, there was somebody with him all the time. Plus, he was in assisted living, but he kept me busy. He kept me really, really, really busy, and lots of doctor's appointments and stuff like that. And when, but one of the good things that happened during that time was every 3 weeks for 3 days, I could go to the Mayhew Center in Myrtle Beach. And so spring, summer, fall, winter, I was staying in the guest house. One time when I arrived, it was snowing. And it doesn't snow very often in Myrtle Beach. And that was back probably in 2014, 2013, something like that. But Baba asked me to come to India in July after my dad died in July. And so from September to February the 4th or something, I was in India, and Ted Judson asked me to sing every morning. And we often, especially the early months in September, sometimes we were the rare Westerners, unlike many previous years where there are a lot of Westerners. And so Ted said, I always hope for 2 songs. He knows he was going to get one himself, and I was the other one. So I had not been in a choir or any kind of singing. Well, I went to Baba Singers, so I guess, but that's a group thing. But I'd never sung by myself. But he would tell me to come in, and I'd have one of Nan's songbooks and point at something, and he'd say, "Yep," unless it was a Ward song, which he didn't know the Ward songs, Ward Parks, which I learned to not pick one of those. He would play with me, and I would sing, and it was surprising. And I also found out that I wasn't an alto, I was a soprano. So, I was in my 60s at that point. So that was a good thing to find out. And so I sang quite a bit there. And Cindy Lowe asked me to sing with her group. So there I was, a person who had never sung at all, singing on a stage. And Dr. Ann was my partner, my singing partner. So I got to singing in Mehrabad. And it took me about a year and a half, probably, certainly a year in Baba Zoom before I sang a thing. And I don't do any music. I mean, I don't play any instruments. So I sing a cappella. And so now people know me as a singing person. And before I was reading all the poems and things like that. But coming up to today and anxiety, one of the things I know that fills my cup is singing Baba music. And sometimes it's hymns, because I grew up singing hymns, and I enjoy Baba-ifying them, and at least popping in Baba's name or things like that, or adding in Mehrabad or whatnot. But it helps me to, one of the things I did with my dad is I accumulated during those 3 years, I already had quite a bit of Baba music, but I acquired a lot of Baba music. And so when I was driving around as the chief procurement officer, there were always things to buy for my dad. I would listen, and I called myself the Baba DJ, because I knew what song was coming on next. And so somehow in my brain, over time, I've listened to a lot of Baba music, and I didn't really know that I knew it. But I now do listen to Baba music, and it really helps fill my cup. I mean, it helps dealing with anxiety. It helps me know that I'm doing something that is meaningful, that grounds me. I'm not worrying about anything. It gives me something to learn. And I practice a lot of things that I don't sing yet. I practice a lot of things that I'm not happy with, but maybe I'll be a little more adventuresome in singing. But that's kind of my story of dealing with Baba and anxiety, and it keeps me so close to him. And anytime I'm learning, I'm growing, and that's going in the right direction. Jai Baba.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sure a lot of us sing our way through anxiety, not just the blues, but through anxiety. Let's go. We got
Richard.
Well, this is, for me, this topic is not really, believe it or not, it's not really my favorite topic. The reason I say this, because for years, I assumed that I was intelligent enough to see that there were obvious solutions to so many public things. And then, of course, in the last few years, I've begun to realize that all of that is not in our domain. It's not within our control. It has nothing literally to do with us, literally. So you don't need to put yourself into that world. Baba has been the architect of what's coming and what's going to happen. And he said that has to happen. It will happen. It's got to happen. And I have listened to a couple of Peter Nordine's YouTube things, and I've found a lot of rationality in what he says, and I like it a lot. So whatever's going to happen in the world, no amount of my worry or anxiety can help that situation. But on the other hand, I am worried about if someone, has a loud muffler and drives by my street real fast. So what I do with that is I try to think, well, I've done that myself, and there's no point in worrying about that person. So I sort of put a blessing on them and let them go, and that's how I deal with it, because I have a house on a street that's become somewhat busy in a suburban way. But other than that, I don't have a lot of worries. It's really weird. I'm composting like Jeff. So Jeff and I are in the same category there. And so I know that when you're young, you don't have a clue what composting is, but Jeff and I can assure you that your worries are more about eating what comes in, what goes out, and sleeping. And in my case, singing a cappella like Gail. But in any case, but I tell you, these groups have really, if you want a compliment to everyone here, these Zoom groups have really helped me to remember Baba much more consistently. And I'm grateful for everyone here and the energy that everyone puts in time into this. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Rich. We'll pay you later. Okay.
Peter?
Yes, good evening, or good morning if you're in India or in somewhere else in the world. I would say I have anxiety sometimes just about not knowing about the future. Sometimes I get nervous and anxious about that. I also have anxiety about just what other people think of me sometimes. And sometimes I'll assume things that might not even be true. So I'll say those two main things are the biggest cause for my anxiety in life in the world, especially about the future. I would love to know the future, but that's not possible. And I would say ways that I deal with anxiety are I like to listen to music, and even sing along with songs, or even just play improv guitar from my heart. Pet my dog on the sofa or walk him. Go to the beach. I call that beach therapy. I love the ocean and the beach, especially when there's a full moon rising. Or sometimes go to the boathouse on the center. Especially if I'm on at night, I'll go down at night and see the full moon rise in the boathouse. And even humor, I love jokes and humor and whatnot, and that helps as well. So that's all on my mind for now.
This is Peter works here on the cabin crew at the center, and he stays very connected with a great many people. So that probably keeps you, Peter, out of some of the anxiety. You're connecting with so many people. Eventually, you
That
get so
does, that
many.
helps.
Eventually, you get so many people, you don't even have time even to worry. No, but there's a line from Mark Twain that I quote, where he says, "I've been through many trials and tribulations in this life, and most of them never happened." That's for those who might be worried about the future. There's a line from Baba where he says, I wish I could remember it. It's too bad Mayor Prasad isn't here, but it's something like, love, love will take care of the future. Did anybody remember that quote? Anyway, okay. Well, let's go
Mary,
on.
Mary,
Mary, you're being called.
Okay, thank you for calling me. Um, it's so strange to be looking at myself when I'm, as I am right now on this Zoom, when I know I'm talking to everybody. Let me see if I can change my view here. Because it's just so weird just seeing my face.
There's only one of us here.
I know. All right, the gallery, that's much
Yeah.
better. Okay.
Yeah, the gallery's better. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes it much better. So, well, anxiety has been my essence from the time I was a little child for a lot of really important reasons. But I'm sure that I brought it in with me. So I had a lot of real reasons to be worried and anxious and afraid and feeling like the world wasn't safe. And it all just kind of went very deeply into my body. And so I remember when I first saw Baba's card that said, "Don't worry, be happy." I just didn't get it at all. I mean, it was a wonderful thing to see, but, and even, the quote, "Don't worry, be happy, I will help you." I didn't understand. I couldn't, I just couldn't take it in. And in retrospect, I realized that I didn't understand, that I couldn't take it in. But at that time, it was just like, oh, what a wonderful thing to say. And that was it. It just, so over many, many decades, like all of us, Baba has, taken me through many places in my life. And I'm really grateful that he brought me to the work that I've been doing as a life coach, and what I've learned about how what my body is doing and how the anxiety is manifesting. And Baba made these perfect bodies for us. They're the perfect body for our involution and all that. And so our bodies have these, ways of, I'm not going to get into it. Anyway, so many things that I learned and that I can now use to help myself understand what's happening, and that my body's actually having a reaction to a certain situation, and why. And that if I bring my attention in and I use the tools that I've learned, that really helps me. And, Baba brought me to that because that's specific to what works for me, and it's been very helpful to people that I've taught and worked with in coaching. But so that's one part of it. And with Baba himself, I mean, that is with Baba himself, but I was going to say with Baba himself, in my direct relationship with Baba, I would say shortly before COVID, maybe 2 or 3 years before COVID, things were changing a lot in my life that caused me to need to go in even more. And then, of course, during COVID, a lot of us had to do more, going in. And that's when my relationship with Baba really had a very significant shift. And I kind of look back at my younger years and think, what were you doing, Mary? With Baba, because this is like, oh my gosh, this is just so much deeper. And somebody brought up trust, and that for me is really the key for the anxiety is that I need to trust Baba. And that's what he started bringing into my life, okay, this is really what you've got to pay attention to, Mary. You've got to pay attention to trusting me. That's what you've got to be doing. And if I'm really trusting him, then I'm not anxious about life. If I'm really trusting him, even though I know I can't do it 100%, I'm much less likely to be feeling the anxiety. And that's been really huge, as well as as well as understanding that even more, that in trusting him, I have no control over anything. I have no control over the future. I have to let go of everything to him, absolutely everything to him. And of course, that's really hard, but it's like, okay, Baba, I am not in charge of anything. And yes, I can make some choices and I can, do some things in life, but I have no control over anything. It's all you. And, you said, remember me, that your job is to remember me. This is what I've learned, Baba had communicated. Your job is to remember me. My job is everything else. So if I'm doing the best I can to remember him and trust him, then he's supposed to do everything else. Okay, Baba, you hear that? You're supposed to do everything else. And that's been really huge as well. Because right now where I am in my life, there's so many things happening that I can't control. And that in the past, I would have been really, really anxious about all sorts of things that are going on. And, sometimes I am feeling some anxiety, but nothing like the past. And that's all because of Baba, of course. And I want to share with you all, I don't know if this is well, I think this does relate, but it came after one of the sessions with you, Jeff, maybe 3 weeks ago or something, that one of the topics we have. And it had to do with, I know, it was from something that came out of Effort and Grace, with limitations that we put on Baba, limitations that we put on ourselves, that sort of thing. And my son, Erich, came up with a prayer that's kind of like a template that anybody and I can add or adapt. But he says, please disregard all limitations I've placed upon myself and placed upon you, Baba. Please work for me and with me, completely unrestricted, using the full extent of your infinite knowledge, infinite power, and infinite bliss, Baba. And that also, for me, really ties in with anxiety, because if I am truly asking him to disregard the limitations and the things that I project onto him, and to work for me and with me, using the full extent of who he is as God unconscious, as God consciousness, and as God man, then what is there to worry about?
Yeah.
And as far as what's going on in the world, I have to say that, believing and really knowing, I mean, as much as I can know with the intelligence and brain that I've got, that Baba is taking care of everything, that everything's going the way Baba's in charge of it all. And as horrific as it can look and sound, and the suffering that's going on, Baba is doing all this, and it's his work, and it's what's happening. And you know, I know that other, you know, Baba folks understand that, what I'm saying. So okay,
Yeah,
I always
beautiful,
find it,
Mary.
thank you. I find it hard sharing, but
No, you did very beautifully.
oh,
You
thank
gave
you.
the whole interior, and now we're going all the way out to Vancouver. Well, what is it, Nanaimo? 3,000 miles
Oh,
away.
yeah. Thank you, Mary. You gave me the courage to share. Um, yeah, I like just hearing what you said, that anxiety has been your essence. I can resonate with that so much. So
Oh,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Yeah, I think like I've always been anxious, like my ego, it's like, yeah, I was born with it. I had parents who were both very anxious. I'm even super anxious now sharing this, ironically, but yeah, it's been such a strong emotion, and that you can like really feel, like I feel it in my heart so much, but it's also so beautiful that it is felt in the body there, because that's where the love is. And sorry, um, I find that, yeah, just even just the touch on the heart, where you can feel your heart racing, you can just feel that Baba's there holding it. And it brings you back into the present moment when you're really feeling it in the body. And yeah, that when it's almost like you put one hand and it's your ego, and then the other hand it's your Baba self, and you just feel this safety, and like he's the preserver and protector of all. And really, when you're anxious, it's like it's your ego just feeling separate and apart and alone from everything. And it almost is this, becomes this longing, like I need you, Baba, like it's only you that can keep me safe and love. And I feel like the essence of all my anxiety has been not feeling safe or not feeling loved. And Baba is the only one who can give that safety and love, and that we all need. We all need that. And yeah, so it's and to me also it feels like it's like Mehra and Baba, and like the emotions that she felt just went apart from him. It's like this longing and this fear, this anxiety, and needing to be with him. And even though like there's all the layers of sanskaras that we get lost in, like feeling anxious about various day-to-day things, our children, our work, what's going to happen in the world. Deep down, I think it's really about just being apart from the one and forgetting who we really are. I think every day we forget and we remember, and we forget and we remember. And when we forget and we're in that trance, we feel so lost. That's the anxiety. Like that's the essence of the anxiety. It's like, I need to hold your Dhamma, and I need you. I need to be with you. So that's kind of been these last, since having kids, basically, it's been this wake up that Baba's blessed me with, but also has been the hardest thing ever. It's like, I can't keep living the way I was living, just paralyzed in anxiety, and seeing my children and yeah, they've just opened the world up to me, and it's helped. Yeah, having had so much anxiety, I think like when we talked about weaknesses, well, I wasn't there, but I watched the recording about weaknesses, and how really they do give us it does give us empathy. And so anxiety has been my biggest weakness, and but it's opened up this world of empathy for all these people suffering with it. And that the shame that we can feel when we feel anxious too. Like I've felt it so much and I see it so much. I work as a family doctor, so I'm seeing people so worried about their health and then worried about the world and everything, and there's like so many underlying layers of anxiety, and just having going through still this journey of anxiety myself, I just feel like I can share it with the world through that, and it's been hard but also a blessing. So thank you.
Beautifully said, really. Wow.
Thank you.
And she comes from a long, going all the way back to Iran. Her whole family have been Baba people from way back. I'm going to be on Galliano Island, not far from you,
Oh, you're seeing your
in
sister?
August. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So I'll wave across the Straits of Fuca, Wanda Fuca. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, beautifully. Yeah, there's one thing that a line of Erich's that I liked where he said, "What is the purpose of creation? To remind you to remember Him." And it isn't just all the good things that remind you. The good, bad, and ugly things can be reminders. So they're positive. I know Bao Kalchur used to say, sometimes it takes a nightmare to wake you up from a pleasant dream. So all these things are kind of awakening us. Yeah, beautifully said. Wonderful. Okay.
Terry.
Hey, Bubba, everyone.
Yeah.
So I don't think that when I came here tonight that I really understood what I was going to be feeling and going through. But I can only relate what I'm going through now is similar to when I moved to California from Massachusetts. And unfortunately, a lot of my good stuff was coupled with something very dramatic and hard. And so it was always kind of that light and dark. And we're retiring now, and I'm really in the light. I feel, I have anxiety, all these relationships that I've had for so many years, just being severed, it's just the way it is. You got to walk away. And certainly some of the people I've worked with and some of the people that have been on my staff are definitely people that will remain in my life. But thousands of patients over the years that I've treated are just poof. It's such a interesting experience. I can't quite grasp it, and yet I can, until we meet again, another life, another time. It's just so interesting. And, Diane and I are doing this retirement thing together. And I feel so blessed to have her. And I just am hoping Bubba keeps us strong and allows us to do things that are fun. I know that the darkness comes, but it's, I want to hold on to his Dharma. It's the best place to be, is all I can say. And when I feel, like, I guess anxious, because you don't know what's going to be. You just hold on and go for the ride.
Beautiful. Yep.
Jay Baba.
Yeah, and you two keep the love flowing, and when the love is flowing, you don't have to be anxious, and it keeps streaming out of you, which is beautiful. Okay.
Varian.
Hi, thank you. This is Marion. And it was nice hearing that, Diane and Terry, because I always say thought travels faster than the speed of light. So a lot of us are going to have you in our thoughts, and that can, help you find the joy. So I resonate a lot with what several other people have said about their nature, finding out that they're just filled with anxiety. And it was like not second nature, but it felt like my first nature. And so, even though it's my career and it's my personal process to explore, dig into everything, open up energetically, I'm a core energetic practitioner, all that stuff. And yet, it was less than 10 years ago. It was less than that. One day I woke up and I realized every time I set an appointment to go out someplace, I had to go to the doctor or go to a friend for lunch or whatever, I would leave getting ready until it made me rush and get really anxious to get myself all ready to go out. And one day
Uh-oh. You have frozen, Marion, but that's this way she is before an appointment. You know, she freezes.
It kind of looks like she's throwing us a kiss. I think that's a better way to get it. You know, while we're waiting for her to
Yeah.
unfreeze, I want to add one more thing. You know,
Wait. Send Marion to me all frozen. It's really hot here.
mhm.
And
Most
Yeah.
people that come to the dentist are pretty anxious. And so, like, not just like, you can't even say half. I can say probably 3/4 of the people that come to the dentist are anxious. And so I just realized I won't have to, like, as Diane said, talk them off the ledge. That's
Yeah.
like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not going to be picking up so much anxiety that's coming in. Yeah. Hey, so let's go on while Marion's trying to thaw out from the cold weather. Let's go for Elisa. Elisa's a therapist, so she hears a lot about anxiety, I'm sure.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
It's really nice to be here. I'm not, can you all hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't usually come on these because it's late for me and I'm not usually as able to stay focused on the computer this late at night. But this topic I had to come on because, like many of you have shared, I feel like anxiety is a constant companion. And I've learned over the course of my life, to try as best I can to work with Baba around anxiety by seeing it kind of, I think what you just said has sort of made me put my hand up, Jeff, about, the what wakes us up from a pleasant dream is a nightmare. I think that, that the whole purpose of, from my perspective, the whole purpose of my being here is to learn and grow closer to him. And there's nothing like anxiety that makes me want to hold on to him tighter, and to have faith that it's all happening as it should. Like, as Mani always would say, the movie's already been taken, right? So we have to just believe that what's happening is supposed to be happening. And but right now I'm being tested a lot, going through having a very, very, very close friend of mine just got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, who I didn't expect in the world to be a person that would have cancer. She's extremely healthy, but a very, very close person to me. And one of my issues in my life is about being like not having like people, not feeling alone. Like that is a theme. And Jeff and I used to always talk about themes. What are the themes of our trips to India? And that is a theme in my life, of this sense of feeling like I'm alone. I didn't have parents who were really there for me. And so Baba has been helping me to feel that he's my constant companion. He's there. Like, what do you mean you're alone? But I feel like this friend is like a person who's like a sister to me. And like, I have been having so much anxiety about, if she goes, how is it going to be for me, like to be losing a real support person in my life. And and really trying to make peace with the fact that this has to happen in its own way for whatever reason. And that, that I won't you know, I don't even have the words for it right now, to be really honest, but I just feel that, you know, this constant anxiety is like a test, is always a test of my ability to surrender to him, and to have faith that he's really holding me and the situation that we're going through. And I also think it's pretty impossible right now to not have anxiety given everything that's happening on the planet and in the world, you know. I think especially for young people who have children. I mean, I just feel for the young people who have children and just the state of the world. So we're human. We have to have anxiety, right? I remember Arnavas one time saying after 9/11 happened, I was in India not long after that. And, you know, we were all just, everybody was so shocked and, you know, horrified and anxious by the state of the world. And I remember her saying that, you know, we have no idea the spiritual benefit coming to those who had to go through that and lose their lives. But she said, as humans, we have to experience the horror. You know, we have to experience that. I remember her saying that, like it's not bad to experience anxiety and depression, you know, because that's how we grow in our faith and our closeness to Baba. So I just, you know, I hold that as sort of close when I start to judge myself. Like I shouldn't be anxious. I should really have more faith in Baba, but it's like I'm human and I have my human feelings, you know. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. No, yeah. Yeah, it's, I know we do have to face a lot of things, but they, like I say, they can be reminding you of surrendering to Baba. They really make us. Sometimes I have to get down on my knees, you know, by these things and that are out of my control. But I'm thankful that, well, here I am on my knees. I'm not, you know, not, things aren't so smooth that I don't have to, you know, I can just float along. But anyway,
Tony,
Okay. um, excuse me.
he's having to clean up his room and everything.
I'm gonna have to get so I'm not slouched back because this subject scared me. um,
Made you
and
feel
so
anxious?
oh yes, oh yes, and I haven't done this for a long time, but I have nothing prepared, so I've just been taking little notes while people are talking. Anxiety is an issue for me. It's not. But it comes like a thief in the night. You know, it comes unexpected. Well, let me just look at my notes. So one thing, at one point where I was clearly was having panic attacks. I thought they were heart attacks, and they said it was nothing. And it turned out it was severe anxiety. And a Baba lover friend who I shared this with online, he got in touch with me privately and said something that helped a lot. He'd done some work or read and followed up on the work of an Australian doctor by the name of Claire Weeks, who focused on anxiety. And when I was having these severe things that felt like heart attacks, what her counsel is, and it worked infallibly every time. He said, the more you try to fight it, the worse it will get. And that what you really need to do is go with it, accept it. And there was a little mantra. And I used to run into the bathroom here and just sit on the closed seat and breathe and say, loosen and accept. Loosen, like don't fight it. Just loosen your muscles, loosen everything, loosen and accept. And at that point it was manifesting in severe physical pains, and the physical pains would go. But as I've been listening to this conversation, I've been getting very anxious. And I remembered, Zeke sometimes will occasionally remind me, this was a long time ago, but she'll still occasionally remind me, and I sat here listening to you and going, loosen and accept, and it does help. What I find, it comes out of the blue. So like I had the wrong lens on, and the screen was blurry, and I wasn't feeling like I was seeing everyone, and I wasn't connecting. Clearly, there's a place where I've got a lot of sense of unworthiness and self-doubt, and if I fight it, it becomes worse. I usually, between conversations with Baba and quiet time and focusing on what do you want me to do at this moment, and staying in, like I say, in tune with Baba, that usually I'm able to walk through it. But sometimes, like now, tonight, there was problem getting onto the computer, and I was really wanting to sing my version of the Pavartigar prayer at the end of Arti, but I got on so late that I thought, well, I guess I won't be able to do it. And in a way, I felt fine. The thing is, it's Baba's prayer, and I am so sublimely touched by the way he has crafted this in me, through me, with me, that I feel so in Baba's presence when I sing it. And I've sung it many times, say at Arti or something else. But it's reached a point where now I'm feeling this prayer is so important, and I'm not sure I'm getting it right now when I'm doing it again this time, and it's not the same way I did it last time, and I'm not forgetting myself. I'm just involved with my ego and the anxiety of it's insanity. It's pure insanity. Jeff, you were there when I sang it before. You were, Rich. I don't know how it sounded, but inside it
Great.
sounded like, yeah, but inside it sounded like, all right, Tony, just pay attention to what you do. Just don't think about it. Just sing it. Just say it. Just get. And I'd focus on the words the best I could. So there's that kind of anxiety. I realized I've been taking some homeopathic arsenicum, which I would not have thought was for me, but it is for that kind of self-doubt. Let's see. If something is going on with my wife, if she's got something in her life, it's nothing to do with me, but it's causing her upset, distress, or anything, and I can't, and I'll give my best empathy, but also like, why don't you try this? It's really helped us before, you know. But if there's nothing I can do, I get extremely anxious. And really concerned that it's going to get projected on me at some point. But that thing about now, was it Anita saying it, or Rashidi? That was the same person. Yes. But about the ego and separateness and feeling apart, or feeling loved. And if it's, the anxiety is always because I have somehow got caught up in a different self that listens to the ego and takes what it says seriously. And I guess the only thing I want to add is one thing that's been helping a lot, just in general, before you brought up the subject of anxiety,
No, I did that to make you feel anxious.
But what I've been doing, I mentioned a prayer that someone came to him at the Samadhi, and I heard this in May. He shared it, and I've been working with it and actually evolving it, and I call it the Sanskara prayer, because I would never say a prayer that included the word sanskaras, because I just figured we don't really know what sanskaras are. I mean, intellectually I know, but this prayer, I just want to say it the way I'm finding it very helpful. I've added, it was just mind, and then I added other things. Is, beloved Baba, please remove these sanskaras from my mind and my heart and my body, where I'm feeling them, and transform them. Please transform them in your infinite, universal love. Baba, please remove these sanskaras from my mind, from my body, from my heart, from my body, and transform them in your infinite, unlimited love. And it also helps in saying that prayer for others, but it's really got to be once I find I'm really, really where I'm letting Baba clear out what's going on with me. The nice thing about that prayer is it's like anxiety. I don't have to know what the problem is. I know I'm feeling it with my mind being frantic, my heart getting it, my body getting it. That prayer I've found extremely helpful. And except I added the heart and body and infinite with universal. So that's, and even better than loosen and accept.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yep. I mean, all these are ways that, yeah, that dissolve some of the anxiety. Yeah.
Virginia.
I've heard a couple people touch on this, and I think it's in the poem that Robin helped me with some. But to me, anxiety, it seems to have come kind of from that first moment that there was just after the whim, and when all the forms kind of splattered out into existence, and then they all imagine themselves as separate. And as soon as we think we're separate, it feels so anxious because we forget that we're connected. And I think about my work. I've been a birth doula in the past, and when I've helped mamas who are given birth, there was certainly anxiety during the process as they were feeling pain, as they were wondering what was going to happen next. But the more and more it got imminent and close to the birth, where their entire consciousness was wrapped up just in the moment, anxiety would fall away because there was just pure being, and then a child would be born. And I've seen that as well in my attending of people in the dying process. Again, as we're kind of comprehending our mortality and getting closer to the reality that our bodies will stop, there can be anxiety with that. But then in those final moments where the death process is truly happening, and sometimes it can be long before that, even, the anxiety falls away and just the pure being is there. So yeah, just wanted to share that.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, and to bring those to those moments of birth and death. Yeah, and it's amazing how I've been at the last moments of a lot of the Baba people, and they are not anxious at all. They are in a great place. Okay.
Shani.
Hi, Jay Baba.
Yeah, Shani. Yeah.
And Joshy's here with me.
I know.
So,
I thought of him today when remember we were trying to stuff him down that sofa there in the original kitchen.
yes, that was so much fun, wasn't
I
it?
thought about that today. Yeah.
Joshy,
Okay.
do you remember that? Okay.
Yeah, we.
So regarding anxiety, I think a lot of my life I experienced just this fear of not, just a fear. And I remember years ago, Esfandiar looked at me, this was at Shireen's house, and he's like, "Don't worry, don't be so scared." And I was like, okay, well, that's great. But how do you not do that? And I knew that was something that it was just, I was challenged with. And most recently, about 3 months ago, I went through one of the single toughest moments of my life, where I experienced such a
Can you get me my strawberries?
In 1 sec, sweetie. Thanks.
First
In
things
2
first.
minutes. Yeah, first things first, right? Just give me 2 minutes, pups. Thanks. Josh, I'm going to finish talking right now, okay? Everybody's listening and seeing you. Thank you. So I got to a point of literal, just complete and total anxiety over a situational thing that was happening in my life. And it was actually just before going to Myrtle Beach, which was very interesting. And it was, when you get to the bottom, when you get to a point of just total and complete anxiety, I had nowhere to turn but upward, I feel like. And at that moment, I went in front of Baba's picture and I bowed down internally at the samadhi, and I surrendered in such a deeply profound way because I literally had no answers to what was going on for me. And Joshi, can you stop, please? Thanks. And it was such a complete surrender. It was one of the most complete, it's just such a deep letting go that what came from it was an answer, help, guidance, and it was just
Right.
profound. And I feel like having gone through that, I know that Baba's here. It's like I know that he is here, that he helped me, that he helped me get through that. And not only that, but give me help and guidance and support in such a beautiful way. And it was through from the surrender that came. It was just such a gift. And I feel like it lifted in a way almost permanently some of that deep fear that I've had. And I'm just so grateful for it. And I just wanted to share it. So thank you all for holding that space.
Why is he
You want to say
crying?
hi? Oh, there's Jeff.
Bye.
Jeff, you're on mute.
Oh, yeah.
I got pulled away and I missed the
Oh,
latter part of that.
Well, what I said was that I got to a moment of such despair and such anxiety, and it was like the bottom.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I went internally, I bowed down at Baba's picture and I went to the samadhi within, and I literally laid everything down and I said, I just don't know. I completely let go. I surrender to you. And what came was, this was right before going to Myrtle Beach, what came, because it felt like such a deep surrender, what came was his help, his love, support through people in the Baba group here in LA. And it showed me that letting go and that giving to him is where the gift comes. And I feel like some of my anxiety has permanently gone because I was able to, it's just a trust factor came in, like it was just quite beautiful. I found Baba literally answered. And I know I found it that just, and it just, some of the anxiety is permanently gone because I know that he's always there from this experience.
Yeah. Yeah, there's beautiful. There's a book called When Fear Falls Away. I don't know if any of you read that. There's a woman who suddenly all of her fear went. I mean, and never came back. And she writes about that state. Very, and but these types of surrenders at a deeper level, kind of, she was like, very just completely anxious, but yeah, and then you get a strength there. I always admired Darwin. He just seemed to, he just kind of knew that Baba was behind him, right there, and he didn't have any worries about anything. It was something to behold. There's a beautiful quote where Baba says, the moment the intensity of your faith in my will reaches its height, You say goodbye to to worry forever. Then all that you have suffered and enjoyed in the past, together with what you may experience in the future, will be to you the most loving and spontaneous expression of my will, and nothing will ever cause you worry again. I mean, that's hard because I remember reading that about 10 years ago, and I'm saying I don't take everything as the most loving and spontaneous expression of Baba's will. Some of it I don't, I wouldn't say it's loving or spontaneous. But there, Baba gives a hint, that what we're receiving is helping us to wake up and grow into a deeper love. Yeah, so we got Ronnie there. Ooh, someone's got a nice picture of Baba there. Oh, that's Al Grasso. Yeah.
I wanted to say that if people were to ask me, so you follow Mayor Baba, what do you do? What is that? How do you be a Baba lover? How will you be that? And there's two things that come to mind that are at the top of the list. And I have to take them most seriously because I want to take Baba more seriously and the world and myself less seriously. If he tells me that that's the thing to do, then I want to be serious about that because he said it. But the two things are remembering Baba in every situation more than I would remember myself, and trying to please Baba more than I would try to please myself. So to me, that is the starting point for not worrying, which is actually the second thing I ever read that Baba said. So it was that, being that it came so early on, it even came before I ever heard of Mayor Baba, but I won't go into that right now. So the thing that I think has helped me the most when it comes to remembering Baba and not worrying is practice. So I have practiced it. Why? Because Baba wants me to be good at it, and I'm not going to be good at it unless I practice it. So I have tried to do that. And whenever I'm falling down on that, if he wants me to do better, then I rely on his intervening and saying, Ron, this is not that good. You're going to have to shape up here and do better. But in the meantime, what he has shown me, I just have to practice it every day at all times. He's never not here for me to remember him and what he said. And I just recently, just within the last few days, heard something because if we think about what we are afraid of or what makes us nervous or anxious, it's thinking. We're thinking about something that's causing that. It's either conscious or sometimes, in fact, maybe even more times, we're unconscious of it. It's unconscious thinking. But the thing is, if we need to use that, if we know that that's the case that's causing the anxiety, then we can think differently. And here's the quote that I came across. It's actually from Henry Ford, and he said, "If you think you can do it, or if you think you can't do it, you're right."
Hey.
So I don't know. Try practice. It can't hurt, actually.
Yeah, just mentioning off of that, a buddy of mine, there were four of us that went to India in 1971, and this one guy was really, he was just kind of getting off of drugs, and he was kind of a low-hanging cloud. He was kind of depressed and all that, and Baba's brother Jal was showing us around Pune, and then three of us went on to on to Mehrabad, and he stayed back. And one day he's with Baba's brother Jal, and he says to Jal, you know, Jal, you're so upbeat, you're so full of cheerfulness and alive. What is your secret? And Jal looks at him and says, practice. So you know, he just, it doesn't, don't necessarily just born with it. It takes a lot of work to have that. Okay.
Go ahead.
Jai Baba,
Okay.
everyone.
Yeah.
Jeff, you know, I always try to search for an appropriate quote to close
Yeah.
out the show here. And it's so amazing that you and me, we're on the same wavelength, I think, today, because this is the exact quote that I was going to share.
Uh-huh.
And I think Virginia wanted it to be repeated again. So here it
Yeah.
is in its entirety. And Baba says, "It is the truth when I say that the waves do not roll and the leaves do not move without my will. The moment the intensity of your faith in my will reaches its height, you say goodbye to worry forever. Then all that you suffered and enjoyed in the past, together with all that you may experience in the future, will be to you the most loving and spontaneous expression of my will, and nothing will ever be able to cause you worry again." Jai Baba.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was Virginia that was, I think it was Virginia was talking about trust. No,
Yes.
no, that was Mary. Mary Barrett was, but let's go with Erich first, because that guy from Grand Junction, you know, he's way on the other part of the continental divide. Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Recently, you know, just dealing with a lot of, over the past several years, everything has sort of dissolved in my life and brought me to places where, you know, I've just had to deal with a lot of fear and anxiety about uncertainty and major changes. Not too long ago, out on a walk, you know, where I just go and talk to Baba and try to deal with things I'm feeling. I was repeating Meher Baba, breathing in, Meher Baba, breathing out. And I really became aware of like my heart and space in my chest, and sort of drawing in Baba's love on the in-breath and then radiating it out as I exhaled. And it really sort of flipped things for me. And it wasn't, I wasn't feeling the fear and anxiety and focusing on myself, but I realized that I was walking through a neighborhood of people going about their lives. And I was, at least in my own mind, radiating you know, Baba's love out to my surroundings, and I've been using that more consciously since then as a you know, a practice, so that, you know, it really turns things around really quickly. Suddenly, it's not about you and your anxiety, but you become a wandering, a moving source of you know, really focusing on radiating out that love. And yeah, so that's something that's been helping me.
Yeah, beautiful, really. I mean, if we could do that all the time, a lot of the anxiety would be dissolved. And it's, I mean, I think, you know, the theme here, most everybody is, you know, remembrance of Baba is the antidote to the anxiety taking over your mind and heart, really. Okay, so we'll make this the last. We're getting toward time here, and we'll go to Grand Junction.
Well, the water here flows to the west, not to the east. So with that in mind,
Yeah.
I have to say, I really think Anita nailed it. I mean, nailed it. I can't say it the way she said it, but I felt exactly what she's felt. But the other part that flashed in my mind when, I don't know if it was, Go here started talking, because I'm not really, I don't think really this way, but, Richard Alpert produced that book, Be Here Now. And then there's, I think, Eckhart Tolle, or whatever his name is.
Eckhart Tolle, yeah.
Yeah, totally. He's talked a lot about being in the moment, but I think what does happen for me is when I really start feeling Baba or remembering him, I'm much more right in the moment. My thoughts aren't going to what I could do, what has happened, or what could happen, I'm just there with it. But again, there's a footnote to all this, and that when you start composting, there's not a big future ahead anyway. Oh, sorry. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so you know what? I was hoping that Virginia would read her poem at the end again, and then we'll have a few moments of silence. And thank you for all your sharing. I mean, this is, it's, we're all have to deal with this, given the way the world is and the way our own kind of personal life, the ups and downs. But, to be reminded, it can remind us of Baba, or it can remind us of how alone and cut off and helpless we are. So there's a line, I hope I can remember it, something like, don't you realize, this is Baba, don't you realize, maybe Tony got the exact word, don't you realize your life has already been scripted, and let's see, and the only choice you have is whether you live it for yourself or you live it for me. Your life has already been scripted, and the only choice you have, I'm getting the phone call here. I better mute.
I guess I'll go ahead and read my poem, or maybe I should wait for Jeff.
He wants you to read it.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read it. A shadow is proof of the existence of light, for even though it appears to be the absence of light, it could not occur without it. Knowing this, okay, I'm sorry. I thought I was on the wrong page. Knowing this, we can trace the transitory stain of darkness back to the light source, which we know without thinking always must be there. In the same way, anxiety is proof of the existence of love. For anxiety tells a story of lack, want, hurt, and at its root, a howling separation from the great nurturing oneness of all being. Tracing back to that point, we see that anxiety stems from the first moment we imagined ourselves to be separate from love, which is our true home. So we can use anxiety as a reminder, because it will always tell us when we imagine ourselves to be anything but God. Thanks, Baba.
Jai Baba. Wow, thank you all. Even for staying up late here on the East Coast, to getting up early in India. Yeah. And Erich has a topic for next week. We're going to try to write it up. And then 2 weeks from now, we'll try to get a guy named Stu Baker is going to share his story. And he also has a heart-centered meditation which is wonderful. Yeah. And I don't know if you folks will see the debates, on Thursday. Well, this is going to be a blockbuster. Okay. Anyway, Gabriella, we didn't hear from you, but you're there. And who's the Samson?
I think it might be me, Deneen.
Yeah. Oh, it didn't look. Somehow it didn't quite look like you. Okay. Oddly, yeah. Okay. Let's see. I think we'll head off here. Let's see. Have we got? Yeah. Oh, so that was Samson. Okay. See you folks. Have a good week.
Thank you, Jeff.
Don't get too disturbed by the debates. Just stay,
Yeah, thank you.
stay calm at the innermost level, like Baba recommends.
Illusion, right? It's all illusion. It's all illusion. It's all illusion.
First you start with anxiety. Now you're talking about the debates. What are you trying to do to me?
It's okay until you do that, Jeff.
What's that?
I was all calm until you brought up.
Oh, that was a mistake. Sorry, folks.
Now we
Never
can
mind the
practice.
The Supreme Court. Why did you mention them now, too?
Yeah, well,
Oh boy.
luckily there's a Supreme Court above that one. Anyway, much
That's the
love.
Sublime Court. That's the whole
Oh,
different.
Thank you.
Anita's here. How?
Hi, Jeff. Jai Baba.
Are you anxious over there in India, or are you okay?
No, I'm okay just now.
No anxiety in the moment, huh?
No, thank you, Baba. No anxiety.
Yeah. Good. All right. Much love, everyone. Yeah.
Love to you.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Mera
Baba.
Baba.
Good night. Jai Baba. Well.